I should have started recording 2 minutes ago. Apologize for that. So if they click on the play button here, then they'll see a short video tutorial that's generated from AET, and it is very helpful, and it pretty much will walk them through the entire process that they will do on the state degree. So if you have a student that maybe is a freshman in college and out of state or not near you, or isn't in an ag class this year and you don't get as much time to meet with them, tell them to hit the play button and read the instructions, and should be able to walk them through things pretty easily. One thing I do want to let you know is when you move from page to page, and you move from page to page over here in this blue box, as you move from page to page, your data is saved. The little floppy disk icon will pop up, and that will indicate to you that your data is saved. For all those techies that know what this means, your JavaScript is enabled. And it tells us we should read the instructions before we begin. One thing you do want to know is if you hit the tab button, that'll make you go from cell to cell to cell. So that's how you navigate through the system, is using the tab key. The very first piece of information you're going to enter on the basic setup page will be your beginning date. The ending date will say December 31st of 2016, because that is the ending date for all state degree applicants this year. But the ending date there, you need to enter in the beginning date. Another important piece is if you start with the cover and move from page to page to page, that's how you complete this application, because many of the lower pages, assets, net liabilities, net worth, earned and productively invested, those are all pre-populated, so they're generated from the data that you put in other locations. So do move in order when you're completing the degree. Don't use decimal points. We don't use any decimal points, and round up to whole numbers. So, and I said round up. I say round up because I'm trying to give you the benefit of the doubt, but round accordingly what we've been taught in mathematics classes. Really cool thing is the little green question mark. The little green question mark is pretty much next to any entity that you have to place into the application. When you hover over the green question mark, it will tell you what they mean by what they're asking for. They'll give you the definition of what they're asking for, and then they will give you some student examples. So you have an idea of, well, I have this expense. What would that mean? And that little green question mark will answer that for you. We have a checklist within the application itself, and all checklist items must say met or yes to qualify. So when you get to the checklist and it has things that might say it's missing or not met, you click on what it says is missing or not met. It will take you back to that page and then make you fix it. If they don't say met or yes, when you go to print the application, it will only say draft. It will say draft across it, and you can't get it to print without saying draft until everything is met, and so basically until you qualify. So in that sense, I think that's very helpful. And this is the magic button right here. I've had a lot of teachers email me, I can't type anything in on the application. You can't type anything in on the application until you click here to unlock it. When it's unlocked, it's basically unlocking itself from AET and allowing you to type in any data that you need to. If you leave it if you leave it locked, then it pulls all information from AET. So it's very, very important that you don't go back and forth between lock and unlock. Only click this once to unlock it and then begin to enter in all your data. In future years, if your students use or want to continue to use AET, you'll want to keep that locked so the information just dumps in there. You can't go back and forth. You can't do both. You have to do either unlocked or locked. You will lose data if you switch back and forth. So
Mindy,
Mindy? Yes.
Can we ask a question, Mindy?
Yeah, oh, absolutely. Anytime, jump in and ask me a question. I apologize I didn't make that clear to begin with. Yes.
So clarify, they only have to click the unlock once. So if they start something today and did something today, had it unlocked, and were putting something in, they wouldn't have to come in tomorrow if they started working on it tomorrow and unlock it again.
No, once it's unlocked, it's unlocked.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Yep. And, I mean, you can see here, I'll click unlock application verification, and it'll ask you, do you want to disconnect? And I say yes, and then I can go back and click here, I want to lock it. I mean, it's that easy. Now, I apologize, I'm in my office, so I'm just getting a call, but I obviously will not take that call, but apologize for the background noise. Now, when I go into here, I'm anxious to see, it did keep my information because I did lock it back, and it pulled in my stuff that I had entered in, my record book that it was pulling from. But what I'd like to do now is go to the state FFA degree application that I have started that I unlocked. So again, here's my instructions page, and you can see that I'm unlocked because I would want to click there to lock. I'm not going to touch that button. I'm going to go straight to my cover page. And as you can see on my cover page, the very first box, important information for you to know here is the FFA member ID number. If that isn't already populated there, you just need to load from FFA, and it should pull their FFA number, FFA member ID number, and drop it there. There's no way you can physically enter in your FFA ID number, okay? So all you have to do is then click on Load from FFA, and it will pull that. At any time, like I said with Mike, anytime anybody has a question, you can do it one of two ways. There's a little chat box, the little talking bubble and on your screen. You can chat and ask me a question that way, or you can just stop me and interrupt me and say, hey, I have a question. So please don't hesitate to ask questions. So the very first top box is basically all the demographics of the student, their name, parent's name, section, district, and their address and parent's occupation. That is nothing new. That is from our previous state degree application. Second box is chapter information, chapter and school information, needs to be typed in there. The next box is their date of birth, the year their FFA membership began. Have they been a member for 24 months? I clicked yes. Have they paid their dues? Yes. I put the date that I received my green hand degree, and I put the date that I received my chapter degree. But I'm going to take that out just because I want to show you something a little bit later on the checklist.
Hey, Mindy.
Yes.
A quick question over here. I've got a bunch of kids that when they go to log into the application itself, it doesn't have any of the pages listed for them at all. All it says is instructions and basic setup, and there's nothing to expand.
We'll get that. We'll get there.
Okay.
When they get to basic setup, you'll see. Okay.
Okay.
Very good.
All right.
Question.
Thank you.
No, thank you for asking it ahead of time. That's very helpful. So everybody remember that question they have. Then the last box is where we put their high school graduation date, whether it be or expected graduation. Then that's where they put their GPA, how many hours they had in ag. All of this is very similar to our previous state degree cover page. And once you've completed that, you click on Basic Setup. On Basic Setup, this is where I enter in my beginning date, and I pick my SAE type. So, Corky, this is where your students will now pick whatever SAE type they have. Once they check that box, then their pages will generate to the left, and they'll see all the pages show up on the blue box to the left. As you see, I picked Entrepreneur, but I'm going to check a placement now, and now you can see I have a few more pages added. Now I'm going to check off of Entrepreneur and just go to Placement, and you can see now I have fewer pages. What's really nice, in my opinion, I like it, but it's different, and it's going to be something for us to adjust to, is that you only get pages that you have to fill out. So if you are placement only, you'll only have placement pages that you have to complete and placement pages that will print. So you won't have any blank pages when you turn in your state degree for a placement student. Same way with Entrepreneur. If you're only Entrepreneur, you don't have those empty placement pages that sometimes confuses students. So I'm picking both boxes so that we can see all of the pages. I could pick Research and Exploratory as well, but again, you'll see all the pages if you do that, which is not a bad thing. It's just a matter of knowing that's why we have all those pages. I don't want you to think I'm missing pages if you don't have as many as what's showing up here today, okay? Any questions on that piece? So now do your students have pages, Corky? Okay, so we will, maybe I lost somebody. I'm not sure if I still have Corky. Okay, so we'll keep moving on. This page, the basic setup page, is essentially your white pages from your old Easy Record book. I left my book in the boardroom, so let me pull up another Easy Record book. So when you are looking at this page, you're going to turn back to your white pages in your old Easy Record, and you're going to put this information here on the very basic setup page. So when I turn back to the white pages, I am looking at my financial summary. And I don't have a paper book in front of me, but I believe that's page 6, the financial summary in the white pages of the Easy Record book. You're going to put your cash on hand, all the cash value. You can see all those numbers there. I don't think I need to interpret those numbers for you, but if you have a question about the number, You hover over, or your question about what they're asking for, hover over that green question mark, and it will give you an example there. You'll put your ending values here, and that's so basically this is your beginning and this is your ending, and these are the columns that you follow accordingly. Put all those numbers in there, and then go down to the bottom. And if you remember from our old state degree application, page 10A, where we put this information, now that goes on this page. And so when we see source of cash gifts, we see an example. Your grandparents gave you a $1,000 gift to begin your SAE program, and this cash gift is used in your SAE or anything of value. You win a scholarship program. That goes in that line. The next line is your source of cash gift that's non-SAE related, and so this is the babysitting, the winning a cash award, selling a personal asset. So if you have a personal asset that you sold, maybe you sold an old iPad, or you sold a laptop, or you sold your four-wheeler, but it wasn't related to your SAE, you would put this here. Personal draw and expenses, this is where taxes go. So for a student whose placement and has tax documentation over their years of their SAE, you take that total number of all the years and you put that in here as an expense. You also put meal expenses, entertainment expenses, going out on date expenses, buying Pokemon card expenses, all those fun stuff. So, and then down on the last one is 5D is the educational expenses. This is where your student can put any tuition fees or book fees that they have from going to college or taking classes. This is the basic setup page. Does anybody have any questions about the basic setup page? Additional requirements, that's our next page. This is unique to Illinois. For those of you who are familiar with the American degree application, our state degree application and American degree are exactly alike, except there are pages that are only unique, that only Illinois has, and this is one of those pages. If you look at another state degree application, they wouldn't have this page. So this is unique to our state. This is where we ask a student or the teacher, the student, can they do 10 parliamentary procedure, perform 10 procedures of parliamentary law? Can they give a 6-minute speech? So I'm checking yes that I can. Can I give a 6-minute speech? Yes. Participated in planning completion of the chapter program of activities? Yes. And have I been an officer or a committee chair or participated on a chapter committee? And I check yes. This is where you check the area in which they will be participating as a STAR candidate, whether it be farmer, placement, ag business, or research. Question we had the other day is, what if a student wants to switch? What if a student has both, like I am, placement and entrepreneur, and they check that they want to be STAR farmer, but as the committee visits with them and sees that they're better suited to be STAR placement, can they change that? Yes, you have to go back to the online application, change it, and then reprint the application. But if that's what the committee recommends, then they can do that. But when it comes into us at the state, it needs to be checked in the right box, whatever STAR area the committee deems most appropriate. So you still have that freedom as a section to change that for a student, but you would have to check that and then print the new application. This is also very unique to Illinois, where we can put in our entrepreneur SAE hours. For the American FFA degree, an entrepreneur cannot put self hours in the American FFA degree application to earn the American degree. You can only put in the dollars and money that you make. But in Illinois, we do allow students to give us their unpaid entrepreneur hours as qualifying for the state FFA degree. So as you can see, I have placed a number 500 there. I'm going to change that number to 200, and I'm going to show you what happens here a little bit later on. The next question is, do you pay or file a tax return? If yes, then you type yes, and then you put in what year. If no, you explain why. And I said, nope, I didn't. My parents paid my taxes in the amount of $100. It was recorded as a gift on the basic setup page. So you go back to my basic setup page and go down here, and there's my $100 that I said I paid in taxes. Again, my numbers are completely made up and round numbers and small, so for my simplification purposes.
Hey, Mindy, we've got a question.
Hey, Mindy,
yes.
It's Sam. On that tax question, because this has always been an issue, if they do not file taxes because they did not make enough money,
yeah,
what is the answer that goes in there?
that I didn't file taxes because I didn't meet the minimum qualifications to file taxes.
And that's an acceptable answer.
That is an acceptable answer, yes.
Thank you. That's all I needed.
You bet.
And
No
Mindy?
Yes.
Mindy? In the past, an acceptable answer for most kids that worked on their parents' farm was the taxes were, they filed taxes, but they were filed with their parents' farm return. That's going to be an acceptable answer also, correct?
Yes, absolutely, yes.
Okay. All right,
yes.
Thank you.
Yep. Okay, so very good questions, guys. Thank you very much for asking them. A nice thing about being recorded is if I change my mind or tell you something different another time, you guys can pull up this recording and say, well, you told me on January 6th of 2017 at 11:18 that this was the rule. So isn't that fun? Now I'm looking at the SAE placement and exploratory page. This page, again, only pops up for a student who does placement, okay? So as you can see, I have something for my year 2014. I worked for Bumpelmeyer Farms, and in 2016 I had a test job and I had some unpaid hours. I entered those in already. What I'd like to show you is I'm going to enter in something in 2015. So I go up here and I select my year, 2015, and I've decided that I have done some environmental service work, okay? I did some work on some prairie land. And so I worked for Macon County. Macon County Soil Service Office, Prairie Land Restoration Work, okay? And so the question we got the other day is, how much description do you need there? And my response to that is, the more description you put, the more accurate, the more complete, the more complete your application is, and the more complete it is, the better quality it is, and the better quality is the better chance you'll not only get the degree, but possibly be considered for STAR. The more you put there, the more it helps you. So I had 0 unpaid hours, but I worked 20 hours, and they paid me $10 an hour, so I got $200, and I had 0 expenses, and now I'm going to add that to. And so now you can see where that added to. So every time you want, whoever they work for, so some placement kids will work for 3 or 4 different people, especially if it's a kid that's working for a farmer after school. They may be helping somebody else with their livestock and somebody else, hauling grain. So no matter how many they have, you want to separate those out so that it can be very specific and very detailed. It's a lot easier for the kid to figure out, too, if it's in those separate. So pick the year, pick the pathway it falls under, and then pick the employer's name, and then give us the description and put in the information. If I need to edit that or change that, and I'm going to say, wait a minute, I had the jackpot, and they paid me $1,000, you can do that. You just click Update, and there you've edited it. If you say I didn't work for them at all, then all you have to do is hit Delete. Okay?
Mindy?
Yes.
In the past, on the old form, we put gross earnings down, but the taxes was not considered an expense for a placement kid. It went in another page. Where does the taxes go? Does it go in that expense box, or does it go somewhere else?
It goes over here on the basic setup page, 5C. See where it says federal income taxes, payroll taxes? That's where that goes. So you'll take every year that they, every year they pay taxes, you'll put it there. It used to be 10A.
In the old book, it was a different place because that confused a lot of teachers. I know they used to put as taxes and the expenses on that one page, and that was never right.
Right, and it's not right. It's still not right. You still need to put the taxes up here on this page.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Good question. Yes, absolutely. Very good question. And I just want to say, the more questions you ask, the better it will be for the people that, if anybody does open up the webinar, for anybody that listens in, it will be helpful because the questions you ask, they're probably ones that they would ask as well. So thank you for that. Okay, so now we're going to go to entrepreneurship details. And this is where a student, just like the placement page, and I know you probably all have to get to lunch in the next class, so I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on each page, but this is just like your placement page. You pick your year, you pick your pathway, and oh, wait, no, this isn't placement. This is the size and scope. I'm going to add some acres here.
That's what it's going to look like. Yeah.
You can see I need to actually change that to plant systems. I pick my pathway, I pick who I work for. I misspelled yielded, but that's okay. All right, so then I just added that. Just like placement page, if you want to edit it, you click on edit, change what you change, and click on update or cancel. Delete it if you need to delete it. Okay, so then we get to our income and expense statement. This is pages 8A and 8B from the old state degree application. So if you're trying to, make them make sense in your mind, this is where that comes from. This is where you put your closing inventory, your beginning inventory, cash sales. This is where you put all that information. The two things that I want to point out very specifically on this page are if you are a student who you have livestock and you don't pay for the feed bill, mom and dad pay for the feed bill because you work on the farm. So you take the value of that feed, and I'm saying the value of that feed is $100, and I'm placing it there because that's what I traded, okay? I traded my labor for the feed. Then I'm going to go down here, and I'm typing in, it says non-cash expenses, transferred, bartered. I'm going to type in that $100 there, and I have that wash, okay? The next thing that's very important on this application, and it's something that as people have used the American degree, we have simplified this process for everybody. But let's say I have the heifer, and she's born, and I say she's worth this much. And then she becomes bred, and she becomes a cow. Soon after that, I say her value increased. So I can say her value increased. I'm just doing 200 here, okay? And down here where it says 4B, transfer from operations, non-cash transfers, okay? So I'm transferring $200. You can see I already have the $200 there. But let's say I say she increased by 300. I'm just going to hit enter. Did I hit enter? There we go. And then all of a sudden I see no, it's not balanced. Well, why is it not balanced? Well, because here I said she increased by 300, but up here I said she only increased by 200. So I'm going to increase her by 200, hit enter, and now she is balanced, okay? So if you ever see a yes or no down here in the bottom, you should see yeses. If you see no, it says, if no, what is the difference in the non-cash income categories minus the non-cash expenses and non-current or off? You basically need to make sure that whatever you're saying you increased in value here, you put here or you place there. Okay, so there is an opportunity for you to say that she increased in cost or in value to you, but it has to be a wash. You have to put it here and then down here. Are there any questions about that? Everything else on the income and expense statement is very similar to previous, like I said, page 8A and 8B of our old state degree application. Okay, so the next one, these are pages 5, 6, and 7 from the old state degree application, and this is where students will put in their inventory items. Again, a placement student will not even see these pages. These pages will not be in existence for a placement kid. An entrepreneurship student has to put this information in. And also a research student or, an agri-science student won't see these pages either. They'll see different pages. And I will go back and open up an agri-science and show you what those pages look like. But I believe that I feel like this page is relatively self-explanatory. And again, entering data is the same as you've done before. You just manipulate through tabs, and then if you hit add, it will put it there for you. So the next page we're going to jump to is your assets page. This assets page is all generated from information you've already put in your application. So there's nothing on this page that you can type in. If you hit a certain line, it'll take you back to the page where that line came from, but there is nothing that you can type in on this page, okay? Just wanting to show that to you. Liabilities is the same way. Well, how come that line says 0? So I click on it. It takes me back to the page where I originally entered that information. So that's your liabilities page. Here is your net worth page. And as you can see, all of these numbers are generated from other pages. You click on it, and it will show you that. now it says I'm not balanced. What does this not balanced mean? So as I hover over the question, it says it's my total assets minus my total liabilities. Well, why wouldn't those equal one another? What did I do wrong? So you hover over the difference. Oh, here we go. Here's where my difference is. It says I'm $1,000 off. It says if I'm in the negative, or a positive, it says I've overstated my asset values or not reported a liability or understated my net income. If the value is negative, it says I've understated my asset values and overstated a liability. What I want to remind you is on my basic setup page, I said I had $6,000 that's what I have in my cash on hand. So that's the money I should have available to me. I also entered in on the placement page, I entered in $1,000 here. I just entered that in new just to show you guys how that entered in. Where is that $1,000? Did I spend it on something? Is it in my ending value? Did I invest it in something? It's just $1,000 that I'm not accounting for anywhere else. So if I take this out and go back to my net worth page, I am now balanced where it says met. So I'm not telling you that's how to solve a problem if that says not met, but you have to understand on our previous application, this is line 28 and 29, and if there was a difference there, line 28 couldn't be smaller than line 29, but if line 28 was greater, it wasn't a problem. It couldn't be excessively greater, but, within a few dollars or within a couple hundred, depending upon the section. In this application, and with the American application, this is like a philosophical change that our application made, is those have to match dollar for dollar. And so how do you fix that dollar for dollar? The other way I could have fixed that is I could have said I spent that $1,000 in either of these two, or I could have said I had that $1,000 still in my cash on hand and checking and saving, or I could have said I invested that $1,000. But somewhere I had to account for those dollars I said I've made. So between your placement and between your entrepreneur pages where you say you've made income in any way, you have to account for where that income has gone. Either you spend it within the SAE or you spend it outside the SAE or you still have it. So that is one thing I want to always make sure I let everybody know that is different than that's the biggest difference in our state degree application from last year to this year. And it's been that way with the American degree application since it switched over to AET a couple of years ago. So it's not anything new for me to be working with American degree candidates, but it's definitely going to be something new for our state degree candidates. Any questions about the net worth page? Okay, I will go to our earned and productively invested. On this page, it tells us, did my student earn their state degree? And as you can see, you can qualify for the state degree one of two ways. Option one is the productively invested $1,000 and earned the $1,500. Option two is productively invested the $1,000 or the entrepreneur or hours of 750 hours. So you can see this one says not met on hours. That's okay. They've met in option one. But what if I changed my numbers back here on additional requirements? Remember how I had this number at 500? I'm going to save that number. I'm going to go back to here. And I'm going to go down here and I'm going to see, oh, now I put in all my hours. I do earn it on that way. So it is really important. I know that some students, you take those record of experience pages from your easy records and you total up the number of unpaid hours every year as entrepreneurs and you put that number there, and that is how you can earn the state degree on those hours as long as you've productively invested the $1,000. So very important to make sure those numbers go there. With placement, your unpaid hours will drop in here. Okay, any questions about this page? Again, nothing on this page can you type in. It's just generating the report and the information for you. Activities. Activities is where we put all of our FFA leadership activities. You can put as many as you want, but you have to have at least 5 above the chapter level. And when you do that, you pick your year. And what I like to tell people is I think it looks good, and I think it helps when you're judging the applications if you put everything in order, so you can see. So if I were you, people like to read down, so I would put the 2016 stuff first, and I would say 2016, I put soil CDE, so now I'm going to put LTS, and it was at the section, and I add it, and I have that. But I'm going to delete this LTS here. It tells me the year here, but I'm going to delete it because it doesn't tell me that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm going to delete one more just to show you what happens. That's where we put leadership activities. Again, I encourage you to put the year there because I think it reads better, both for judging purposes and for your purposes as a teacher to check, make sure they have everything there. Next page is skills and competencies. Before, your student always had to type out what the skill and competency was. Now they have a super long checklist, hundreds of choices for what their skill and competency is for their SAE. They pick one, and then they type their description, their contribution to success over here.
Thank you.
This is page 12 from that. Thank you for what?
That.
Yeah, it makes life simpler. It makes it a lot easier. So, that page should be exciting to you. So then next is community service. This is easy too. You're going to pick your year. You're going to type in that I worked for, I keep putting Dove Foundation because that's the one from our church that I work with, but Fed people. I'm just going to say Fed people. And then I'm going to say I worked 8 hours, and I'm going to hit add. And you can see that it just, boom, drops it right in there, and it says, yep, they have to have at least 2 different activities. So I put Dove Foundation 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3 times. I had to have something else besides Dove Foundation. So I have church and I have Lions Club, and then you have to have at least 25 hours. That's the community service page. And here is our question.
Yeah, Mindy, this is Sam.
Yes.
I'm going to go way back on you, and I'm really, really, really sorry. Under your FFA activities, we're just talking about this, about officers and that type of thing, and we were talking as a class and had you on mute. Did we put our office or committee that we were on this page?
Yes. Yep. You put your office, your committee. You put. This is where, like, if you work the coat drive, you could have students that have a whole page of leadership activities. You know, because you and I both know you've got kids that are super active, and I would encourage the student to do that because this is your chance. Just let them know who you are, what you're all about. So.
All right, Mindy.
Yes.
Where do we put non-FFA stuff in here anymore?
Or excellent question, Mike Chauncey. Great question. I'm glad you asked. Because I will get to that when we get to the checklist, but no, we don't. And the reason why we don't is it's always been on the I shouldn't say always. It's been on the checklist for many more moons than I can count. But it is not a constitutional requirement to earn the state FFA degree. So because it's not a constitutional requirement, it is not in the degree application. It is on the checklist that the teacher checks after they print it, but I think it's something we need to discuss further because I imagine it got added to the checklist because it's a good thing that a kid is active in other things. And I imagine it got added to the checklist when we took away the quota and we said we want to make the degree, more stringent. Maybe it was added to the checklist years before that. I don't know. But I do know that it's not a constitutional requirement. And in my very short time that I've been educated on how we have to proceed with things, if it's not in the Constitution, if it's not a constitutional requirement, we really can't require it for qualification. So good question. Now, when the student prints an AET resume, all of their non-FFA activities will be on that, but it does not show up on the application.
Okay. So
good
only
question.
Only FFA stuff on this page then?
Only FFA stuff on this page.
Okay.
Very good. Thank you for asking that. So now I'm going to jump back to my question or to my checklist page, and this is the page I told you everything has to say met or yes. And it says missing. Well, what's missing? Let's see. Oh, and this one says error. Candidate has chapter or green hand degree. So I click on it. It takes me back to that page, and I look down here, and it doesn't have the year that I got my chapter degree. So I add it, and then I go back to the checklist, and now it says met. So the really nice thing about this application is wherever I might be missing something, all I have to do is click back there. So it says I'm missing my school name. So I go back, click on it, takes me back to my page. Oh, what's my high school name? Well, as Mike Chauncey knows, I am a proud graduate of Lincolnwood High School, and I'm going to type that there. What did you say?
Go Lancers.
That's right, go Lancers. So then I'm going back to, and now it's not missing. So I think this is really a helpful tool for students and teachers just to see. And then you can see my 2 items at the bottom that are not met. I don't have 10 skills and competencies, and as you remember, I don't. I haven't typed in 10 yet. You'd think by the time I get done with webinars I might. And then at least 5 activities above the chapter level. And I deliberately took one of those off. So let me add one more, and I'm going to write 2014 Green Hand Bowl where we beat Nokomis. And that was just a fun one there too, Mike. Hope you enjoyed that. And I'm adding that, and then I go back to my checklist, and now it says met. So you can see how that works and that operates. Now I'm going to go print my application. I'm going to generate the PDF. It's going to drop down over here. Question we had the other day is, can I save this? Absolutely. Once you've generated this PDF, you can save it onto a flash drive. You can save it onto your server. You can save it onto your laptop. Understand you can't go in and work on the PDF. You only work can be done on the application is by going online. But you can save it after you generate the PDF. So if you remember, I told you my application is always going to say draft because I don't have an FFA member number. But if I did and I had all the other things met on my checklist, on this fun little checklist, if these didn't say missing and this didn't say met, it wouldn't say draft. But mine's always going to say draft because I don't have a number. Front page is all the signatures. No signatures are any different than previous years, all the same signatures you need. And this is what the cover page looks like. All that information that you put in those boxes drops right here. This is your basic setup page. What it looks like, this is our additional requirements page. And then this is what my placement and exploratory page looks like. So when I talked to you earlier about description, if you think about it, and I mean, there are some teachers, and I know we're all thinking about this, what will you do to have a competitive advantage over other degree candidates? What do you do to have a competitive advantage over other kids from other states when you begin to compete at the national level? You put more in this description, and you make 2014, 15, and 16 fill the page because you have given them plenty of description of what you do on your job. Because, as you know, I mean, granted, they'll have a chance to see that in your record book. Now, this isn't specific for the state degree, but I am talking to those kids that are listening in the audience. If you become a state winner and your application goes on to nationals, you want the competitive advantage, and the way to get that competitive advantage is put as much in this application as you possibly can, because that's all they'll see beyond the state is the application. So I would encourage everyone listening to put as much information as you can in the description. That's where you sell your project and yourself. Same way with the entrepreneurship. The more you put in the description, the more information they're going to have, the better they're going to think that application is. And I don't mean this in a bad way, but when you see that somebody has filled the page and there's all kinds of information, it means that you've taken the time to show off your project. The next couple of pages are what are those old 5, 6, and 7 from our old state degree. These are all your inventory for the Entrepreneurship 2 student. And then our income and expense summary. And this, again, from the old state degree application is page 8A and 8B for those teachers that are listening and watching. You'll see at the bottom it has all our yeses. Everything looks the same. That makes you feel good. Here's your assets page, your financial balance sheets are here. And this is where it tells you, yep, I'm met there. I'm not unbalanced. That's good. I'm not unbalanced today anyway. And then down here it tells you, did you meet the qualifications for the degree? Again, it looks just like it did on the application when we had it open. Now you'll see with leadership activities, you see the importance of listing the year out to the side. It doesn't give you boxes that say 2014, 2015, 2016 like the others do. This is a page that's unique to Illinois. This is not found on the American degree application. And so this might be something we work towards in the future, asking them to put it in boxes. I didn't even really think about that or make that a requirement, but I think it's important to put the year out so that you'll have that chronological listing for kids. This is your skills and competencies page. Again, you can see I filled up the box with that one, what that looks like. Well, you'll have an idea of what that will look like when all 10 are filled. Here's community service. It does break them out by year in boxes. And here is our checklist, and you did nothing new there, still missing the same thing. What's different now with the printout is the checklist that the teacher checks. So what does this checklist include? Well, it's a lot shorter than previous state degree applications. If you remember from last year's state degree application, it was a 3-page checklist. And the big question is, well, why is it not 3 pages? Have we dumbed down the degree? Not at all. What's nice about this application now is because of this checklist, you don't have to actually physically go and check, because the application would say not met or missing, and you couldn't print it without saying draft unless you'd met all of the minimum qualifications. So we have pre-populated most of the things that were on that old checklist so that the degree can't be complete without doing those things. So it doesn't require you to have to go in and check them by hand. It is automatically done. It's automated for you. So we've automated the degree as much as we could. Now, some things we could not automate are the transcript. A transcript is still required to be attached to the state FFA degree. And in that transcript, you just need to check to see the GPA matches 3.5 on a 5 or 2.5 on a 4. And then the other thing you're checking on the transcript is number 2, the verifying that they were in 2 years of an ag class, so 4 semesters or 360 hours. The thing you also check is, has a student attended 12 meetings or more? If the teacher checks that, and if the section teacher is asking or wondering where that can be found in the record book or with AET, it's found within their FFA record activities. Somebody asked yesterday, well, what happens if a student doesn't have all 12 meetings in their record book? This is one of those things where we take the word of it for the teacher. If the teacher checks yes at the chapter level, I think we're pretty we can't check it at the state level, so we have to take the word for the chapter and section teachers, and we do that. Okay, next is
Andy?
Yes.
It's Sam again.
Yes.
So number 4, we don't even have to do anymore then, right?
No.
On the checklist?
Number 4, you do. You do check it. You look at the kid's AET resume, or you look in the record book that they've listed. They've been in 3 non-FFA related activities. We kept it on the checklist because I didn't want a state uproar of, well, why did they get rid of that requirement? We left it there. But let's say somebody checked no. That doesn't mean they wouldn't get their state degree.
Okay.
Because, again, it's not a constitutional requirement. We left it there because I just have not had a chance to have an FFA board meeting to talk about this. This was something that after that October board meeting, we got to that, and I was like, it's not in the Constitution.
Okay.
What do we do? And I didn't want to take it away because I didn't want everybody to think I've dumbed down the state degree, but I do need to get a history of why it was added to the state degree and what we want to do with it in the future. Leave it on the checklist and make it, a soft requirement, if you will. I don't know if there is such a thing, but anyway, I left it there, and it's not going to be a surprise to anybody to check it. But where to check it is the resume and within the book.
Gotcha. Thank you.
It's nowhere on the application, and that goes back to answering Mike's question. Number 5 is the nature of the SAE, is the ag nature evident? So basically, you check yes if it is. If it's not, then that's where we ask for an additional requirement up here at the top that you set. And typically it's not until you get to the state and the state committee says, well, there's no ag relevance here. I send an email to the teacher and say, send me documentation that says why this SAE is ag related, and we send it back to us. But, you are just at the section and chapter level checking to see, that it's ag related. 3 and 4, page 3 and 4, do the business enterprises listed relate to the income and expenses recorded? So basically what we're saying is, do the income they're saying they're making is what they say their SAE is? And that goes the same for 7, 8, and 9. These are all ones that were on the previous checklist, but they're basically making sure that everything they're saying, recording as an asset or recording as an inventory, is related to the SAE. So that's where you have to make sure they're not putting the personal vehicle as an SAE-related asset. If they want to list it as an asset, they have to put it back up on the basic setup page. And then one thing that's very new this year, and that's why when I said if you change your kid's star area, you have to reprint the whole app, because every app has a version number, and I highlighted in blue here on the application we're looking at. The version numbers down at the bottom, you want to make sure the version numbers match. This is a requirement for proficiency applications to national and for American degrees, and we left it on our state degree as a way to kind of make sure, because you will have teachers that accuse other teachers of, doing some magic with their state degree application, and they print one page for somebody and another page for someone else. If version numbers match, that eliminates any of that risk or accusation of maybe not playing fairly. So all version numbers do have to match. You check that. And then in the last checkbox is, has the advisor checked the applicable manual checks needed, and are the signatures complete? And signatures, as you remember, are back up on the top page. Question we had yesterday, will the state still do a state degree review committee? Yes, we will. We will still have our state degree review committee day, and it's scheduled for March 7th, and typically that is retired teachers that you nominate from your district that come in and spend the day reviewing state degree applications. Our American degree has been this format for the last 3 years, or 2 years going on to 3, and so our American judges, those retired teachers, are very familiar with the American app, and so they will be familiar with the state degree app, and they have caught errors on this, because I think what some people think is, and I'd like to think that this application is foolproof, everybody would like to think that, but there still could be errors that are found, or students could still, have items that don't match up here on their income and expense page. And so they still do review it, and we will still have review day. And I don't know if that's a forever thing, or I don't know what we'll do with that. We could have that conversation a few years down the road, but we definitely will still have that for the future, for the near future. So that is the application. I did not want to try to rush you, but again, during the middle of your school day, I know time is precious. I will go back to the application and hit a certain page or answer any questions if you have any.
Yes, Minnie, this is Mary Barnes. I finally got my vocals line that I could actually hear you. It's about halfway through. So,
oh, God. I'm sorry. Yeah.
Hey, it's not your fault. Talk to me about the option of using the generated ATE record book and adding past records versus going straight to and starting cold turkey into the state degree app.
Okay.
Which one are you recommending?
You have to, if your kid has, I went back to my application manager. If your student did they have a book in Easy Records and a book in AET?
I have 2016 in the ATE, and then we have the prior years in Easy Records.
The best thing to do so that the student doesn't have to convert previous Easy Records into AET, the best thing to do is to use the application, and I showed this in the beginning. When you go here, you click here to unlock it, and then you have to input all that data. And you do have to input the numbers from that 2016 year of AET.
Okay.
Because it doesn't do both.
Okay.
You either lock the application and it pulls everything from AET, or you unlock the application and you drop everything and you add everything in yourself. If you go back and forth between, it will lose data. So for future kids, for future students who may have all their years, and if your student were, to convert theirs to AET for those purposes, that would be fine. At the section level, they would probably still want you to show the Easy Records to show, because we only really allowed AET last year was the first year we allowed AET records. So converting it over, you can convert it over for application purposes. You still just need to have the Easy Records.
Well, and then I as I recall the ATE scenarios that we went to last year, that they wanted you to just dump the whole year in a certain section. Like if you had just your whole year expenses into one documentation. I'm like, I didn't know if that was going to work or if we're going to have to break it out. So it sounds like to me we need to break it out.
Well, you can do that. Oh, so when I look in, let me go. Yeah, I can. As I look in this page, I can't dump it into now because I am not in the right application. Let me go back to it. Yeah, you would just have to pull the information from AET records and drop it in here. Type it in just like you would from the Easy Records.
Yeah. But I know, like when you go into ATE, you have to select the year in which a student was in these record books. And they had us create one that says prior to 2016. So if we use that system that they talked about for us to do, it would put 2014 and 15 in the same pocket. And we don't want to do that, right?
Right. Yeah.
We want to see, the screen you got 2014 by itself.
And I'm trying to think this through. Is if I'm thinking about if I did that, trying to separate that out. Yeah.
Because for my American degree child that I had last year, that's what we did. We allowed the machine to generate everything for 2015 into it.
And then you just made it a lump sum for.
And then we lump summed everything else. But I think that the way this looks like, we've got to keep the years separated, that we can't do that.
No, I think you could lump sum it too, as long as you weren't showing the lump sum records as their records. Do you know what I'm saying? As long as the record book, easy record book, was still there for your judging purposes.
Oh yeah,
you can lump sum in what you're putting in for AET to make sure that it's right.
Okay. Because I'm thinking down the road, if the kid's getting his American degree, then
you might as well get him converted. You're right.
Set the time now, because you're going to have to convert it in a year from now.
You're right. You're right. You're right. Yeah, you can lump sum it. That's a good question.
Mindy, since we're on the topic of AET, are we going to it or not? We're getting a lot of the teachers here are confused of, is the state going to mandate it, or we're not going to mandate it?
Right.
Do you get any comment on that, or is this not the time to comment on it?
No, well, I do have a comment on it, and I didn't mean to laugh because it's not funny. It's just that is the $1 million question, and it's a $1 million question that truthfully, I can't give you an answer exactly what we're going to do, but I can tell you, because this is public knowledge, we had a conference call meeting, IVAT board, FFA board, the FFA Center, and ITCS, here between November, December time. And basically the crux of that conversation was because they were no longer putting any tech support to Easy Records. They told us, you have it, you go find somebody to make your updates. And we put out the bids or RFPs for us to own Easy Records and make the changes and make the technology updates that we needed. And when we didn't get bids from a couple companies and we got an astronomical bid from the IVAT board, in both boards opted that that's not an option. So we'll just continue on with Easy Records with what we've got, and we'll allow people to explore AET. So when we opened the door to allow us to explore AET, and we gave everybody a free sponsored subscription this past year, that has dramatically affected the sales of Easy Records, which we all knew it would. But Easy Records is saying, you guys need to come up with a timeline. You need to decide what you're doing so that they will stop the sale of new subscriptions to Easy Records. I would anticipate at the end of this fiscal year, which will be June 30, and I don't know how long they'll let us continue to have the subscription. If you have a student that has one already started, I don't know how long they'll let you to continue to do that, but essentially that's the direction we're moving. So FFA board meets on January 23rd, and that is the group that will have to decide our timeline, our fate, what we're going to do. Originally, FFA board said they didn't want to make that decision until April of 2017 because they wanted us to because originally what we really would like to do is we'd like to still be able to have both. If people want to use Easy Records, let them use it. If people want to use AET, let them use it. But it doesn't look like we're going to be able to do that, and FFA board didn't want to decide what to do or what we have to do until we got through a cycle of proficiency awards. How did it go in every section, and you got through a cycle of using them for a year. So I know there's a little bit of impatience with FFA board or the FFA Center, myself, whoever, because we haven't told you what we're doing yet. Well, we really want to see how did it work first. What do you like? What do you not like? I just had a conversation this morning with Roger that we need state only. We need our state proficiency area only, Illinois only, added to our choices for you guys. So I just sent MEI something I hadn't thought of until somebody brought it up. Well, food service isn't a choice. Electrical isn't a choice. Safety is not a choice. I'm like, well, call Roger. So, it's still kind of a work in progress in that sense. We haven't made a decision on it because we do want everybody to use it first tell us what's good, tell us what's bad, tell us what we need to do, and then they'll make the decision. But I would anticipate, given the news we got from ITCS, that FFA board will have to make their decision either a little bit sooner, or they'll still put it off to April. I don't know. But something's coming, Mike. I can't tell you clearly what it is, because that is truly an FFA board decision, but I anticipate that we'll come out with some type of timeline to phase out one and phase in the other completely pretty soon. And so whatever advice you have to give to Lisa Ulrich, who would be your FFA board rep, and Brian Schillian, who's District 3, and Jeff Meyerhofer, who's District 2, and Kathy Crouch, who's District 4, whatever advice you have for them, Ryan Kinziger, District 5, please don't hesitate to share that with them. That's not and Mike, I'm not sharing information with you that hasn't been shared with, like I said, the IVAT boards, FFA boards. It's just we haven't made an announcement to the state yet, because why tell you that if we can't tell you what we're doing next?
Right. Okay.
So.
All right.
Yeah.
Because I've got kids in both right now, and I see good things of one, and each has its good things and bad things. So.
Oh yeah, the other day I was on the phone with a teacher, and we were going through their AET records, and it was just a crop book, and in the crop I was putting something in the finances, and there's no place for me to put that I did get 211 bushels per acre. There wasn't a place to put, so I had to put it in my notes when I sell it. You know what I mean? And
right.
That's the thing I think we have to do next, the SAE committee, the FFA board. The thing we have to do next is, if we're going to use AET, we need to come up with some best practices on how to make it so that when I'm judging it, I know where to look. But there isn't a place for me to put my planting population or my fertilizer rate. I can put it in my journal. That's kind of hard for me to find, and so we need to come up with some best practices for it. And then I also noticed that I'm in this plant book, and it says something about my stock show income. Well, why is that even popping up? So I find frustrations. I don't want to say frustrations. Yeah, frustrations. I find frustrations with AET too. A lot of things I love about it, because it does make life easier, but there are a lot of things that I think we all have to go, well, that's different, and different in a good way, and different in a bad way. And so, yeah, I agree, Mike. Neither one of them is, perfect and without flaw and exactly what we want, but one has technology support and a staff to support it and answer our questions. The other is not.
Right.
And
right.
That's important. And I feel really bad, because this all is taking place and happening just as as there's new leadership at the FFA Center, and it looks like we're the ones pounding the nails in the coffin of Easy Records, and that's the last thing I want to be perceived or to be thought. It's just that these changes came at that time, and I don't want to be perceived as the one that's always forcing change on everybody, but that is the reality of the situation. I'm forcing a change. Oops.
No problem. Thank you for the input.
Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome. Any other questions that we can answer about AET, record books, state degree, any of that?
Mindy, this is Mary. On the ATE book with agri-science projects, I found extremely difficult to put the information, or not to put the information. There's places to put it, but the kids are not given enough guidance as to what kind of stuff needs to go in that space.
Right.
There's some examples, and the examples are a long way from science research projects. So I think that the agri-science division, which I think we should be using a lot more, has made my kids really, really frustrated. And even in comparison to the Easy Records, which I don't think it's a very good one either, but ATE even makes it more abstract and farther away from collecting and doing the things that they need to do in their research project.
And
for whatever that's worth.
I'm not sure if you've had the conversation with Jennifer Waters or not, but I know somebody has, because she and we talked about that at an FK staff meeting where we kind of talked extensively what we need to develop. When I said that best practices, we need to kind of develop here's a table that you can put all your information in, now copy and paste it and drop that into your journal. Because you can, in your journal budget or in you can make tables and then copy paste and drop it into the budget and so I think that might be, but again, we haven't developed those best practices, but you're right, agri-science is an area that needs a lot of work for us to give guidance to our students.
Okay.
So So
I see what you're saying about a table.
Yeah.
Now, can we drop tables into the journal part?
I'm pretty sure you can. I know you can on the budget part. I
never thought of that. That's a great idea.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
because I think about, I have my kids type out their exercise projects. If they could take that whole page and drop that into the journal, which tells their hypothesis, their purpose, their their procedure, all that, because I stopped putting in the book because it was a duplication, but yet I'm like, okay, so just in general, tell me what you did. It'd be so much more detailed and a lot better if that's a place that we can do that. That's a great idea. We will try that.
Yeah. Okay. All right. I know you can put on the budget page or those preliminary pages, but I think you can drop it in the journal as well. Mike's talking.
Mary,
what do you got, Mike?
Yes. The only thing I see there is that old 12 number of additional documentation. Is that going to throw that into flux now? Remember, you can only have 12 supporting documents. Is that
right? I don't think that will, Mike, because that is.
Yeah, I agree with you, Mindy. There's a page that asks you to tell your plan and why you picked the page, and it gives you just an open box. And that page, I think, could probably be as long as it wanted to be. It could be 30 pages. And so if you could drop that in there and it's already typed up and in a format in which you can use easily, could get rid of the 12 pages and just put it all in there.
Right. That's Mike. You bring up a really good point that I think we really have to examine the 12 supporting documents for agri-science, because agri-science is a completely different beast. And why should they only be able to have? 12 photos, fine. But when we're talking about supporting scientific documentation, I don't know that should be limited, because I know we kept it that way because we wanted to try to keep things all the same. But agri-science it's really its own beast, and so we do have some. We scratched the surface on talking about that at the last FFA board meeting, but I do think we have to talk further about that at future board meetings.
Yeah,
so
we'll try some of the dropping of things in there, because I'm seeing, like the kid needs this bit of information that they found off of wherever, the label of a bag, and they could Photoshop that and drop that right into a document in their journal or wherever on that in the book if they need it. It's there. That would be just unbelievable.
Yeah,
that they could do
hopefully that would solve your problem. Yes.
Mhm. Okay. Well, I think you've done a great job, and I'm ready to go to lunch.
Oh,
so
good. Me too. Yes, but I'm happy to answer any other questions if anybody has. I know Corky and Sam, you've got your whole class there. Are you guys good? I must still be muted, which is perfectly fine.
Hey, I can't work Corinne's phone. Yes, we're perfect.
Okay, good. I've always known you're perfect, Sam. I've always known that.
I know.
So. Okay, well, I want to thank all of you guys for calling in. This has been super helpful. Like I said, the more questions you ask, the more answers we can get and more information we can get out there. So, but if you ever have questions that you need to ask, don't hesitate to call or email, and we will get back to you. So thank you so much for calling in today.
Thanks, Mindy.
All right, have a great day.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.